whatever you want. No problem there. So
Yeah.
Okay, so whenever you're ready, I'll just talk a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'll try to keep it down to 15 minutes or whatever. Okay.
No, you can honestly, you can do whatever you want. I mean, if you're on a time constraint, that's fine. You know.
No, that's no problem. No, I don't want to bore people either. I just want to get.
No, we know. Normally our podcasts go about 30 minutes to an hour. So you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So, and we have a couple that are like 20 minutes. So it's just, I mean, really, Tom, the reason that I would just really want you to let you introduce yourself, and you just
Sure.
so we'll just start there.
I've been around the block, pal, not to worry. In fact, Mike Stevens, I don't know if you ever watched WNEP, Mike Stevens on the Pennsylvania Road.
Yes, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, he's a very good friend of mine. I just talked to him last week, and he's mostly retired now, too. But he was saying, you know what the hell you should do? I said, what? He said, you should do a podcast. I said, nah. He said, no, seriously, get a good microphone. And he said, you know everybody in Northumberland County and beyond. He said, you could just have some fun. I said, nah. Not yet. Maybe down the road, but we'll see. I just wanted. My wife just died a couple of weeks ago, and I just want to get my head together and get back to what life should be, I guess, or whatever. So, but I do miss radio. I do miss being with people and all that neat stuff. So maybe down the road we'll get back into the world of people again, so.
Yeah. And by the way, I'm very sorry to hear about your wife and everything. I know we spoke earlier.
Right. Yeah,
but
57 years. That's a long time, my friend, being married.
Yeah. I've only been alive 32, so I can't even begin to comprehend something like that.
But,
yeah.
I've been through quite a few generations of radio listeners, believe it or not. So
yeah.
Let's just have some fun. That's all, okay?
Yeah, and I mean, like you said, he told you to do podcasts, and now you're doing one, so you're already on the way.
Yeah,
so.
Right. Well, I didn't get a chance to talk to him. I call him about every couple of weeks, or he'll call me, or we'll just bullshit a little bit about the old days. And he was in radio originally, way back when in the Scranton area, and then he got into TV, and well, the rest is sort of history. But Mike's a good guy. He really is. Hell of a great entertainer, and he knows how to put a story together. That's just what he always did. So
yeah.
Got to be good friends, and I guess that's the way it is. So okay, buddy, whenever you're ready, we'll hit the big time. Okay.
All right. Yeah. Tom, just tell us about yourself. I mean, just start as far back as you want to go, and just say how you got into WISL
Sure.
and the radio, and just introduce yourself too for people that don't know who you are. Because we have a lot of followers from all over Pennsylvania, so.
Sure, not a problem. Okay, ready?
Yeah.
There we go. Hi, everyone. My name is Tom Kutza, formerly from WISL Radio in Shamokin, Pennsylvania. I want to thank Anthony Procopio doing the podcast thing with me today. And Anthony lives in Shamokin, PA, as I did for a while, as a matter of fact. But I was born and raised in Mount Carmel, Pennsylvania, 8 miles away from the town that I called, or the city I always wanted to go to be in radio. And that, of course, lasted. In fact, it'll sound like an obit, but I was in WISL radios from 1960 to 1998. As I said, it sounds like an obit, sort of, but not really. I was really known as the morning mayor, as a matter of fact, and we'll get to that in just a little bit. But I didn't start there. I started back in 1960, October 9, and I did the night shift from 6 p.m. till midnight. And from 6 to 9, it was live stuff. You DJ'd, if you want to call it that. And then later on, it was just nice, easy listening like Johnny Mathis and music like that till midnight, and then we would sign off. That lasted about 4 years. From there, I moved up to the afternoon when a gentleman by the name of Jim Riley, formerly from Centralia, Pennsylvania, was the DJ. Riley's Roost was his show. I'm sure most people won't remember that, but I certainly did, because I always thought of Jim Riley as my idol, growing up listening to him in Mount Carmel when I was a kid. And so when he left, I did the afternoon from 12 p.m. to 6 p.m., which I enjoyed because I could sleep in the morning and still be home in the evening, especially when the children came along. That was another story also. But and then, I guess for the last 20-some years of my 37 and a half years, I became the morning mayor. I loved the morning. I loved to get up at 4 in the morning. Most people thought I was nuts, but that's the way I am. Nuts. And that's sometimes you have to do that to be in radio.
Yeah.
But I love the morning show. I really did. I was there at 5:30 in the morning, went on the air. memories that I just will never forget that linger in my heart. I've met many, many people over the years. Many are gone now, as a matter of fact, to their reward. But there are still some that still remember TK, the DJ, if you will. I was called many, many things. But speaking of called many things, at 6:30 in the morning, when people are just getting up, ready to go to school, ready to go to work, whatever, I would play a wake-up polka, which is unheard of, but I had to be a little bit different in life. That's the way people remember you. And so I would play a wake-up polka at 6:30 in the morning. And also, along with that, I would have my sidekick named Big Red, who was a rooster. Not really real, but nonetheless, I had the wake-up rooster at 6:30 right after the wake-up polka. Well, you have no idea how many people have told me over the years to where to stick that rooster. If you get my drift,
yeah,
you do.
Yeah. To interject really quick and have a good story.
Sure.
At one time at one of the festivals that I run, we encourage like you bring pets, and people would bring their dogs, and sometimes people would bring their cats. And one time somebody brought a rooster, and it was awful. It was just at like 4 in the morning, or 5 in the morning, trying to wake everybody up. But I had to throw that in. But continue.
I'll tell you about an interview down the road at a festival in Shamokin 3 years ago, a Memorial Weekend. They always have the festivals in Shamokin, not this year for obvious reasons, but we broadcast live on WISL1480.com. And I interviewed, believe it or not, after all these years of craziness, I tried to interview a skunk. We'll get to that later on. But anyway, getting back to WISL Radio. To me, radio now is not radio per se. To me, when I was in radio, they were sort of the golden years, and people will say, yeah, before I was in radio, you had your Bob Hope shows and Bing Crosby and all those that are gone. And of course, that was radio way back when you didn't have television and you used your imagination with stories like The Shadow and so on. But to me, in my era, from 1960 to 1998, you became, I guess we were called back then, DJs, disc jockeys, radio personalities. You tried to interject your own personality with others. Hi, good morning, let's have a cup of coffee together. Tell me all about yourself, and so on. So to me, radio now is just, I rarely listen to radio unless Sirius maybe I'll put on or play my own music, which I love, depending on the mood you're in at the time. But radio stations just aren't what they used to be, in my own opinion. You don't have the personalities you did way back when. And I'm glad I was in that era of radio back in the so-called good old days. But I had the pleasure of doing a talk show some years ago. I guess before I get into that, I want to talk about some of the radio or personalities of another era. Some of you older folks will remember, some will not. But I had the pleasure of interviewing some very, very nice people, actually, who were very big in the industry. Giving an example, Doc Severinsen. Many of you will remember Doc Severinsen from the Johnny Carson show. He was in Mount Carmel back in, I'm taking a guess on this one, probably the late 60s. They used to have the Mount Carmel Festival of Stars at the stadium. They had band competition there, and Doc Severinsen at halftime was the entertainer. Great trumpet guy. I interviewed him during his halftime, so to speak, and one of the nicest people you've ever met for being the star that he was. And I said to Doc, have you ever been in the coal region before? And he said, yeah, kid. He said, I certainly was. He said, I was in near Illinois City. They had Lakeside and Lakewood ballrooms where all the big names were there, from Lawrence Welk to whatever. And he said, sure. He said, I didn't have a name back then, but I played trumpet. There was another guy that I had the pleasure of interviewing, Frankie Lane. Again, many people won't remember, but those that do, he was an icon in the recording industry for many, many years. And in 1969, I think, he came out with a song called, back in the 70s, Lord, You Gave Me a Mountain. It actually turned to be number one. When rock and roll was hot, Frankie Lane came in with this song that blew the world apart. And I called the record distributor in Philadelphia, Manny, I can't think of his last name right now, it doesn't really matter. And I said, hey, I just want to let you know that's my pick of the week by Frankie Lane. And he said, "Did you want to talk to Frankie?" It's like, hama, because I thought he was sort of God in the industry. And hi, Tom, Frankie Lane, how are you? Yeah,
I'm looking at all the things that he's he's accomplished, and it's pretty incredible. I'm looking at all of it, right? I just pulled him up quick on Wikipedia, and it's like wow, 75. Say pretty much active for 75 years.
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, he was an Italian boy, American, of course, but I think his name was Del Vecchio, something like that.
Yeah, Francesco Paolo Lovecchio. Yep, something.
Okay, so,
yeah.
And again, one of my questions had been to him, are you familiar with the coal region? And he just started laughing. I said, yeah, what's so funny? He said, let me tell you. He said, I remember the coal region very well. I dated a girl in Tamaqua, Pennsylvania.
Oh, boy.
I said, really? He said, yep. He said, when no one knew me back then, I was trying to make a name, things were tough. And he said, you made a buck any way you could. Well, the bottom line there was they had, was it roller skating till you dropped, or a dance. It was a dance marathon. That's what it was. And the last person that was a couple that standing won the $1,000 or whatever it was. So, but he said, yeah, he dated a girl from Tamaqua, and I thought, wow, talk about a small world. But the greatest interview that I think I ever had, not because of the interview, but the person himself, the personality, a gentleman originally a coal miner, I might add, as we are all coal crackers, which I'm very proud of. Stanley Kovaleski, Baseball Hall of Famer. He was inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame in 1969. He worked at a breaker near Shamokin Colliery, and he got his control by throwing stones outside the breaker after work at a tin can tied to a tree. Well, anyway, he was in Shamokin in 69. They had a big celebration for him, and I had the honor to interview Stanley, or Mr. Kovaleski, as I called him. His personality, he was probably 80-some, I guess, back then. When I shook his hand seemed like enormous. The handshake was fantastic. And first thing he said to me, he said, Tom, he said, do you want a beer? And I said, no, thank you. I'm working now. But he said, thanks anyway. And someone had brought 2 big bags, Acme bags, as I remember, of F&S beer made in Shamokin, Pennsylvania, Furman and Schmidt. And he said, I have to tell you something. Of all the places I've traveled, F&S is still the best beer made. This was 1969. But he was such a humble human being. He didn't forget where he came from. He was known as the Silent Pole, as a matter of fact. Just a wonderful guy. So to me, Stanley Kovaleski stands out of all the people that I've interviewed. Speaking of interviewing people, I had the honor of doing a talk show later on before I had to get out of radio because the station was going downhill because of advertising, needless to say. The bottom line was I did a talk show, Viewpoint 148, from 10:30 in the morning until noon. And I love that because I love people for the most part. And these people would come up and they were genuine. They talked about what they did, maybe Nurses Week or whatever the case may be. And especially the women, when they would say, could I see your list of questions? And I looked at them and said, no, not really. Well, they got panicky and said, well, why not? I said, I don't have them. What I was sort of blessed to do was I never did just write down questions. I would simply look at a person. I know why they're there, say Nurses Week, for example, and I would just start off. And the women in particular, I would love to, right before the show went on the air, I would say, oh, just for the record, we had an average of 40 to 45,000 listeners every day. So I said, don't worry about it. They're only people. Well, they got panicky. But the fun part was after it was all said and done, they looked at me and said, you made it so easy. I said, no, you made it easy. You only talked about what you did. And so they couldn't wait to come back and go on the air again. So I love doing talk shows. I love people. As I said, for the most part, I love people. There are some not so great, but that's another story.
Yeah.
Another thing that I've truly loved, and to this day people still remind me, they would run home from school in the afternoon to listen to Letters to Santa Claus. that was something that the kids grew up with in this area. They listened to radio, to WISL, and that's something they never forgot. The letters to Santa Claus on WISL radio. And I think it was originally at 4 in the afternoon, somewhere in around there. When I first started at the station, Jim Riley, as I alluded to earlier, mentioned the fact that he would read the letters to Santa Claus. And I said to Jim, why can't Santa Claus get the letters and read them? And he was just about leaving at the time, and he said, do it. Do your show. Do what you want. Well, I couldn't help but start to do a young kid. I was a skinny kid back then, not now. I was 18 years old when I started at WISL, as a matter of fact. And I decided to say, okay, I want to be Santa Claus. This is my dream. Santa Claus is simply love. Children look up to Santa Claus. They respect him. So I would practice a little bit, little by little. I said, well, now you be a very good boy. Isn't that right, Rudolph? That's right, Santa Claus. And, I would just get into my own little world because I'm Santa and I live at the North Pole. And when I turned that microphone on and started to read those letters, I was Santa Claus. And later on, then, the news item here, of course, locally, they were kind enough, since I was out of radio and became tourism director for 10 years at Northumberland County. And my job was to tell people where to go back then for 10 years. And my loving wife, who's gone now, but 57 years, told me where to go most of our married life. So I always kid about that. But anyway,
you always have to listen to you have to always listen to the lady. Happy wife, happy life. That's the way.
Absolutely.
That's the way it goes.
The best thing ever happened to me, as a matter of fact. My wife, Herma, and that's a fact. That's for sure. So anyway. I love the Santa Claus thing with a passion. People still tell me, speaking of the festivals in Shamokin every Memorial weekend, except this year, we would, and I'll get to the Trees Boys in just a moment. The other stuff that I love to do, along with just being a DJ, so to speak, we started doing record hops. Oh my, back in, 1963 or somewhere around there. And we would go to MOC School in Mount Carmel. I would go to Cashmere's in Colbon and West Catholic in Shamokin and do record hops. That's what they were called back then for the kids. And then the big thing that hit money-wise was something called disco. You either loved it or most people got tired of it. But disco really brought DJs into the forefront as far as entertaining. Records, of course, back in that era, and I would play it. I did the Jester Club. Most people aren't familiar with the Jester Club anymore, which is now Bruisers in Cole Township. For a year and a half, every Wednesday night, I did disco for the large crowds that they would have, and then went to work. I would come home at 2:30 in the morning and get up at 5 to go to work, which was, I was younger back then. You could do things like that. I also, I'm sure many people might remember me being the DJ at Cheers 2 in Shamokin, which is now the Ale House. But Cheers 2 was just a year and a half gig on every Friday night. I used to play a lot of parties, class reunions, Christmas parties. I could go on and on with all that neat stuff. But again, weddings were always big time, and you met a lot of great people over the years. The other thing that I have to really inject here is Captain Action. Now, most people are saying Captain who? Well, Ideal Toy Company in 1967, and they were out of New York at the time, Ideal Toys, came out with this Captain Action doll. It was to be something on the order, I guess, of a G.I. Joe thing. And they were looking for radio personalities to play Captain Action. Well, first of all, I can't crawl up on a ladder because of height. It's not my bag. But money was money, and things were tough, and my wife was pregnant with our son Joseph back then in 1967, so and it's about 52 years ago, I think. But anyway, the gentleman from Ideal Toy Company came in, Victor Kahn, still remember his name, and I talked to him a few minutes. He said, "You would be perfect." I said, "Why?" He said, "How would you like to be Captain Action?" I forget, it was like a few $100s, and back in 67, that was a lot of money. So I thought, yep, make a buck when you can. So they had a suit on for me, a tights, I'll have you know. That's another story, won't get into that. And the Captain Action hat and the whole thing. and I was young back then. I was 20, 25, 26, whatever it was, somewhere in around there. And so, yeah, I had the decent body back in that era because I used to live to box when I was in high school. So I was in shape back then. I wasn't 78 as I am now, by the way. A young 78, mind you. Okay, just so you know that. But okay.
Yeah, we talked about that earlier. The young mind, that's the most important thing.
Yep, like Satchel Paige once said, how old would you be if you didn't know how old you are? And yeah, sometimes you feel 130, and other times I could be 23. So that's how your mindset should be in life. Never get old just because you are, so they say. Well, anyway, the Captain Action thing was at the brand new Big End department store. Neister Brothers, I think they owned it. The Big End department store, Ames, later on, I believe. But anyway, I went in a helicopter, by the way. Now, I told you, my height-wise, I can't crawl up a ladder. I look down and I get a little weird. So, but there I was at the Elysburg Airport, Northumberland County Airport, in a little Bell helicopter. And the gentleman, the pilot, by the way, was from Gettysburg. And he had a very bad cold. I thought, oh, God, he's going to die. So I crawl in this thing, and the helicopter goes up, and I went to hold on to the handle. And he said, don't do that. He said, you open that door, you get sucked right out. So I thought, oh, my God, I'm going to die. This is it. So anyway, up we go over Shamokin. Matter of fact, he followed 61 right up to Cole Township to the Big End department store, which is no longer. And they had thousands of people there. It was crazy. Shamokin, Cole Township never saw anything like this. And out comes Captain Action, which I have a lot of pictures of. It's back then it was pretty cool, and I got to enjoy playing the part. As a matter of fact, I thought I would wear a mask because I thought too many people know me. Well, they said no mask. Kids don't know who you are, and so it worked out. Yeah, it worked out very well. It really did. So I got my money and a whole bunch of free toys from Ideal Toy Company, and it was just a very nice memory that I hold dearly to my heart.
Yeah, it's very, very, very cool.
After all the Captain Action, wow. Yeah, I could show you the picture, but now you'll probably laugh all day, so never mind. But
yeah, I should give you my email or something. You should send it to me. I'll post it on Hobart News. I would want it.
Well, I'll tell you what. Here's what you do. You could go to, and I wanted to give a plug to WISL1480.com. You'll get anything and everything about WISL Radio, about me, some earlier pictures of at the board, if you will. And I'm pretty sure there's a picture of Captain Action there also. So check it out, WISL1480.com, okay?
I'm already on it. Got it bookmarked. I got two. I'm lucky enough that I've been able to upgrade. I got two computers, so got one going now, and so everything that you were pulling up. Cool thing I wanted to put in about Stanley Kovaleski. I did not realize that he was a World Series champion. That is amazing. I am a huge baseball fan. I knew that he was you know what I mean, a Colt, and he played in the, MLB. But I did not know that they won the 1920 World Series. I did not know that.
Yes, actually, here's the story on that. Anthony, that's you. Stanley Kovaleski pitched 3 games in the World Series in 1920, and he won all 3 games, by the way. If you check WISL.com, and you will hear the interview that I did with him.
Yeah, I'll definitely share that because people that, like I said, I have a lot of Shamokin local, but we picked up a lot of people from Philly, but all the area. So I want to kind of, you know what I mean? That'll be a great thing. I can post a website or post different things. Yeah.
Sure. And actually, I was on WISL1480.com with a polka show from 12 till 2 or 3, I forget now, for about 4 or 5 years. And we had listeners all over the country, all over the world, as a matter of fact. And I sort of got out of it for a bit, but now that my wife had dementia for 6-7 years, and that just took everything out of me. And my priority was to take care of her, and I did. And that's I don't regret that one iota. I would do it in a heartbeat if I could have her back. But the bottom line is, I do want to get back to do this stuff. And I also want to do an oldie show for my era, the 50s and 60s. Let me tell you about the Treese Boys. I have to tell you about these kids that came along when I was tourism director for Northumberland County from 1998 to 2008, as a matter of fact. Their dad was originally from Shamokin. John Treese, Jim Treese, Frank Treese, and Bill Treese. Jim and Frank are twins. They are the gurus of computers. That they got me all hooked up here so I could do a polka show from my house. I could do the polka. I could do letters to Santa Claus I have a recording studio as I'm speaking from now, down in my root cellar, as I call it, which it isn't really. But so they set up a recording studio for me. These kids are unbelievable. But they also got involved. They opened up WISL1480.com, and they still play, I guess, the 50s and 60s and so on.
Yeah, I'm looking at all the programming right now. I'm looking at your Sunday polkas with Tom Kutza and looking at it right now.
I don't know if that's on. They might be doing reruns. I don't know, but I do want to start getting back to live stuff again because I'll have the time to do it again. But believe me, you'll get everything you want about WISL1480.com and what WISL is all. I interviewed a guy on a St. Patrick's Day show. Oh God, 1997, I think it was. Polish John the Leprechaun. He came in, he was loaded. He was inebriated. Yes, he was. And he was originally from Centralia, just a little guy dressed like a leprechaun. He looked like a leprechaun. And that interview is also on there. If you want to laugh your head off, the guy was fantastic. And he sings all about Centralia days of years gone by, which is interesting in its own right, for sure. So I guess I think I covered most of what I wanted to talk about. But I miss radio. I miss being with the people. Radio, like I said, you don't have stations that would have a DJ like me anymore, a personality, or I try to be a personality, one-on-one with people. They have talk shows, I guess, and all that neat stuff. But
yeah, but it's not the same. I was at WQSU for a while and WKOK for a while, and you don't get to do anything. That's why your friend said to do podcasts. That's because the podcasts are basically the new form of that type of radio, because it's one-on-one discussions when people want to hear experiences or stories, and then you can look at your interests. So this is, you know what I mean? So this is a better format, because radio now is everything's 5-second cuts and we're moving to the next thing. We're moving to the next.
It's all computer and no personality, just music and commercials and blah, blah. The other thing that people always say, why did you stay in Shamokin all those years? You could have gone on. And I don't get into that very much, but yeah, I could have, actually. My wife's cousin was married to, he started at WISL. His name was Bob Richter, who passed on some couple of years ago. But he was the station manager at, I forget the station, right on Steel Pier in Atlantic City, when Steel Pier in Atlantic City was big time back in the 60s. He was the manager there, and quite influential. The station was owned by Whitey Ford and Hank Bauer, I guess, of the Yankees back in.
I know Whitey Ford. I definitely know Whitey Ford. Yep.
Oh, sure, absolutely, yeah. Mm-hmm. And so he wanted me to come to. We want you to be here, and I said no. We're just married back in '62, and I said no. I was born and raised in Mount Carmel. I always said I was born in Northumberland County, and I'll die in Northumberland County. And then he calls me a couple of years later. He's in Vermont. And do you want to come up to Vermont? We have an opening for a jock up here. And I said, oh, no, I think we just had our son born at that time. And I said, no, I don't want to. Because I love this area. I have to be honest. I live in Ellisburg since the flood of 72 we built out here. But I love the area, period. I just do. I have my memories of Mount Carmel. I lived in Shamokin, I guess, for about 6 years, my wife and I. And I still love the area with a passion. I really do. And the memories, the downtowns that used to be, that aren't anymore, but I do have fond memories of strolling downtown. Oh, Christmas! I must tell you one important thing. Oh, gee, more than anything, my Christmas Eve show. It's called Christmas Eve with Tom Kutza. Okay, the Treese Boys again. They came down the cellar with all their fancy equipment. One of the guys, Frank, works at WHP in Harrisburg. They're all computer people. Let me tell you, they know their stuff. But he works at HP in Harrisburg, and they bring in the best equipment sometimes. And I guess I'm not really sure, and I'll be wrong. Jim will give me hell. But about 10 years ago or whatever it was, they came down here and said, "Do you want to do a Christmas show?" Well, Christmas to me is a passion. I love Christmas. I love what it stands for, the real meaning of Christmas, of course, but and Santa Claus, yes, and Santa Claus. So they wanted me to do. I said, "What do you want?" Just open up your heart. Well, that's all I had to hear. So one day in the summer, we came down in my cellar, and I did the Christmas Eve show. It's 5 hours. You hear it on 95.3 FM every Christmas Eve, and it's on WISL1480.com also. But the music is the Christmas music that most older people would certainly appreciate more than some of the rap now. Crap now, I was right. When Christmas music, the Silent Nights, and you know, the real Christmas, and some funny stuff too. The Little Red Caboose, some people will, if you've heard it, you'll laugh your head off, and if you haven't, well, you missed out on life a little bit. But anyway, about the Little Red Caboose. Anyway, getting back to the Christmas Eve show, Christmas Eve with Tom Kutza, it's just a labor of love. It was simply no money involved, just a thing to do. And many people to this day will come up to me and say, "Oh my God, I love that Christmas Eve show. It brought back so many memories. Who wrote your script?" And I stopped and looked at them. I said, "What do you mean, who wrote my script?" "Well, how could you do the heart thing so much?" I said, "That was it. That's the heart thing. You did it from your heart. You talked about your memories growing up as a kid in Mount Carmel." My pop was a coal miner, like many guys. He was a coal miner. So we were poor, okay? But we were very rich in love. We were brought up properly. The best parents in the world. Both of them died when I was 15. So I had quality, not quantity. I wish I had them longer, but that's the way it was. So I had the best parents in the world, hardworking. Everything was for their kids, and I tried to be a father just like that. And so I have my memories of downtown Mount Carmel growing up as a kid. At Christmas time, everybody was happy, everybody friendly. The same in Shamokin, Jupiter Discount, and all those. Every store had their Christmas decorations or trains running around in the window. And so I have great memories. And so I tried to relay those memories as I remembered. So there was no script. Something called a heart did the show for me. And so if you ever get a chance to listen to, I think it's on WISL.com. I'm pretty sure. I don't know right now, but they might have it posted all the time. I'm not really sure. But anyway, I know Christmas time is very important to a lot of people to this day. And so it takes them back some years to what Christmases used to be all about. And not all the craziness of today somewhat. But so anyway, Christmas Eve with Tom Kutza, I just had to talk about that. And I think that's, I don't know, do you have anything you want to add in?
Honestly, I just want to take a second to just thank you. I appreciate you taking the time. I just enjoy the memories and stuff. And I think it is what you said is very important for you to share these things so that, you know, people of my generation can just get a little bit of perspective. That's what this is all about. That's what this podcast is all about. But honestly, Tom, yeah, I'm good. If you would want to, like maybe in say a couple of weeks or something, we could start doing this. Like if this does well, we could just kind of do this, you know, every couple of weeks and stuff. I mean, I think this is a cool thing for people, you know, to have as like a supplement to my like Hobart News. Like I would like to do this. So like maybe in like 2 weeks or something, we could set up something again.
Well, we'll see. Like I said, I'm going to do a little bit of traveling and stuff like that. So I just want to finally get out in the world a little bit again because I haven't for several years. And I just want to get my head together a little bit and life goes on. Oh, I have to say it. I don't know how I'll get through it, but put that lunch on, Hermione. I'm coming home. Coming home, Joseph and Lorena. I had to do that, okay? Yeah,
absolutely. Hey, I almost called you Bernie. Tom, I appreciate you.
Oh, speaking of, I'm glad you mentioned Bernie.
Yeah, I just did. I did a podcast. I did a podcast with him last week and posted it. Yeah.
Well, Bernie and I still keep in touch. He lives in Florida, as you know, and I think you're friends with his son, Bernie.
Yep. He follows Hobart News. He's a very, very nice guy too. Yep.
But the bottom line is, Bernie and I, we keep in touch. every once in a while, if I have some memories that I remember to talk about, or he will, we'll just yak, and that's what started getting you involved with this whole world of ours. And he said, would you want to do a show like that? And like I said, I don't know. I said, my wife just died. I'm not, things are different. And after I stopped to think about it, I thought, you know what, this would be good. I love people. Nothing changes there. And it's another good way to get out, to be in radio again, in a sense. It really is. Like you said, this is the new radio that people are people, and you say what you think, and right or wrong. I couldn't please everyone. They hung Jesus on a cross. He couldn't please everyone.
Yeah, exactly.
You certainly try. That's how I feel. But I'm very very thankful, Anthony. I've really enjoyed being with you, and wherever people are in this wonderful world of our crazy world of ours now.
Yeah.
I like I said, most people won't remember me because everybody has their day in the sun. And I certainly had mine for a long time. It was a living, but it was Mike Stevens. Getting back to Mike just for a moment, said to me, and he and I often talk. We keep in touch, and he said, when you enjoy what you're doing, you're never really going to work.
That's definitely true.
Yeah, and that is true. If I would get up every morning, wash my face, put a smile on, and take on the world, and I loved what I did, and so it wasn't going to work. It was just, I don't know.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I never do anything. Like, I run music festivals. Now I'm doing this news thing, but it's just like, if you're gonna do something, you gotta do it 100%. And I mean, I have to do multiple things in multiple companies just to keep myself afloat. But I don't feel like I work all the time, but I don't ever feel like I work. I don't ever take vacations because I love what I do. So.
Exactly. Well, life is one big vacation. How about that?
Exactly.
Or it can be, for sure. So anyway, thank you for giving me the opportunity to be me again. Put it that way.